Hey, Jen, I'll let you monitor those coming into the room here to go ahead and admit them, but we'll go ahead and get this kicked off. Good afternoon, everyone, or morning to those just joining us on the West Coast. We're excited to be hosting this webinar today with two great partners of ours, Payroc and Dencar, as they discuss how they and you too can cut out the friction between hardware processing and software to align on a seamless solution. While you shouldn't have the option to, we do ask that you please keep your cameras and mics off to prevent any disruption in the webinar today. We have, however, enabled the Q&A feature at the top of your screen there for you to submit your questions that we can ask our panelists at the end of today's webinar. We'll also be releasing a poll question later on during today's call. If you could please take a second to answer that when that comes through. But without further ado, I'll turn this over to my colleague and PAX Technology VP of Unattended and Retail Solutions, Tom Caduto. Tom, go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Matt. I do want to start out by just thanking everybody who's joining us today. I hear we have maybe 150 plus attendees. So again, I appreciate the time that you're spending with us today. Today's webinar is really all about partnerships, and in particular, a case study between three partners, the PAX, Payroc, and Dencar partnership. And I really love case studies because it's really storytelling. It lets you understand what somebody has already gone through, what trials and tribulations they had to go through, and how they eventually wound up successful in their particular vertical. So we're going to talk about that today. What I think is really important to take away from this, though, is if we look at the partnership between PAX and Payroc, Payroc offers ISVs and OEMs a couple of different paths to success, if you will. And one of them we're going to just refer to as the broad POS integration path. And the other one is their SDK integration path. So if there's one thing I would like you guys to take away from that, it's the differences between those two paths and how you might be able to better work with the folks over at Payroc. Matt already introduced me. My name's Tom Caduto. I manage the retail, unattended, and OEM verticals for PAX here in North America. Let's take a quick minute, maybe go around the horn here. Phil, we'll start with you, and then Con and Chris, just introduce yourself real quick.
Yeah, sure. I'm Phil Marquardt. I'm one of the co-founders of a company called Dencar Technology. Previously a car wash operator, and still am a car wash operator too, along with being one of the co-founders of Dencar. Happy to share here, and we'll get into more of what we've gone through, but we started up as a payments processing company and really a membership company for car washes. So our bread and butter was selling a membership without people being needed. And now we're doing it across multiple channels, which we'll get into here too. So I'm happy to be here, happy to share our Payroc and PAX experience, and looking forward to the dialogue.
Thanks, Phil. Con?
Hey, good morning, afternoon, or evening to everybody, and thanks for joining us. Con Byrne, I'm the Executive Director of Integrated Payments here at Payroc. My role is primarily business development, certifications, integration, and then also into our go-to-market efforts. I don't want to give too many spoilers. We've got 45 minutes of really good content coming up, but I think for those of you that are not so familiar with Payroc, think of us as a full omni-channel payments platform that is catered towards and specializes in integrated payments. So our goal, and again, we'll talk through a lot of this later, but our goal is to provide as many front doors, as many ways for integrated partners to come onto our platform, to leverage it to scale and ideally monetize the card payments that are coming through their platform today, or to help them as they continue to grow. So looking forward to the conversation. Thanks again for joining today.
Thanks, Con. Chris?
Hey folks, Chris Jennings. So I lead our integration and certification team. So as Con mentioned, we've built the Payroc platform to be omni and also global in nature. So with that, there comes a lot of complexity around how we support payments, how we support our partners, and not just from the acceptance of payments, but more along the lines of boarding your merchants and funding your merchants and reporting on all of that. So my team is specifically tasked with working with folks like Phil and Dencar to solution out the best fit, whether that's, as you'll see, working with a payment application developed and managed by PAX, or looking at alternatives where it's maybe more proprietary to a solution fit that Payroc offers, or others out there. So in that regard, we're here to aid our partners through any integration work that they have, whether that's the payments piece of it, or simply form factors relating to the hardware. So we'll get into all of that, and I'm happy to be here. So thank you.
Thanks, Chris. So let's kick it off with some questions. Con, let's start with you. Maybe you can tell us a little bit, give us the 50,000-foot view of the benefits of a partnership like we have here with PAX, Payroc, and an ISV or a customer like somebody like Dencar, and how these partnerships benefit the end user like a Dencar.
Yeah, it's a great question, Tom, and I think obviously, Phil, the reason we have you here today is because you're a great example of how this all comes together. So I think one of the words that always comes to mind when I think of our platform, how we work with partners such as PAX, and how that impacts and benefits our integrated partners such as Dencar, is flexibility. So if I think of Phil's journey, I actually had a quick look there, Phil. We first started speaking in 2017, so that's a little while ago at this stage. But if I look at the journey from when you came in with your 4 or 5 car washes to where you are now, it's pretty incredible. But I think that flexibility, Tom, is the big thing. Phil's needs at that stage, whatever we were 8 years ago at this stage, were entirely different to what they are today. And I think by working with somebody like Payroc initially, it gave him a single entry point to start processing card payments, to integrate that into his platform, to chop and change payments hardware over the years based on what his needs were, or the needs of his customer base was. And then I think if you look at where we are today with Phil and Dencar's newest platform, leveraging PAX and the IM30 devices, that's really just the latest iteration of that flexibility or that evolution. So I think the big thing is, and Chris will talk about this in more detail, by providing not just different kind of payment methods and different payment terminals, but also different ways to get there, it allows a partner to come in a very easy way. So again, you can come in as a simple referral partner and maybe just leverage some of our more basic payment terminal solutions, or even card not present. And then as your needs change, or as you decide to get more complex and go further up food market, our platform has all those capabilities, and you can continue to just add them over time. So yeah, I think the big one for me is that flexibility and multiple options to get somebody in without making the payments process too daunting to do so.
Yeah, I have to say, I really love that about working with you guys, right? I mean, you phrased it as that single entry point to so many different options. And I mean, that's one of the things I really like about the relationship with Payroc. Phil, if I look at you, I mean, I think it's always interesting to people to understand or hear why, back in 2017 or whenever it was that you chose or decided to go with somebody like a Payroc. I remember talking to you guys around the same time, as a direct, potentially a direct customer with us. Talk to us a little bit about the vetting process and what really turns you on about the Payroc solution.
Well, Con said the word omni-channel, and that's what it was. So we didn't start with Payroc. I'll just say that too. So what do you do when you're starting out? You're trying to figure out what you're going to work with. And we were working with Stripe. That was the popular, still is, great, big company doing that work. And they had a really good online presence, and that worked really nice. But then we realized card present wise, we needed to find a different solution. So we started scanning the horizon, and we ended up, so from Con's team, Bill returned the sales call. So we made a sales entry in. Bill picked up the phone and called, and out of all the other companies, he was the only one that did. So it's, there's a platform, but there's people too, and it's the people that matter along with the platform. It's who's supporting you. So Bill made the sales call. We talked through it, and next thing you know, the omni-channel thing is what struck us. So where the rest of the world made life more complex by having all these different payment processing environments to serve one customer's needs, we made a decision that we were going to partner with Payroc to have one omni-channel solution for our customers, because life's hard enough nobody wants to go log into 3 different merchant systems to go find stuff and to go do research and to make it all work. And it's just too confusing. So by going with Payroc, we were able to, they had a really strong card present solution at the time. And Tom, that's when we were talking to about a direct possibly with
Yeah.
PAX, but that didn't come to light. So here we are now. And what we did is we went with Payroc to bridge all those channels because yes, online payments matter. Yes, card present payments matter, and getting them in an unattended market, that was the real niche that Payroc, and at the time it was WorldNet, actually satisfied. So that's the direction we went. And as Con mentioned, we went from one to a lot at this point. So we keep on growing. And we'll show a little bit more about how we've evolved, but that one payment processing solution for all channels that you do business with through us is huge for our customers. And some of them take it for granted because we've given them that option that, hey, you don't have to go anywhere else. And that's becoming really popular for us too. So we're excited to keep offering that and refining it. And Payroc has evolved over the years too. So payments are going to evolve too. I've been working in payments in different ways since the 90s. And it's going to continue to evolve. I look back to where things were, and it's changed so much, and it's going to continue. So you've got to be with a partner that's going to keep evolving their business, so you can keep growing for your customers.
Yeah, for sure. Chris, I'm sorry, Phil, I'm going to make a comment. You had mentioned, you said, we didn't wind up going with you, but we chose Payroc. That actually is still going with us, right? I mean, for us, from a PAX perspective, as long as you got PAX hardware on your, in your estate, we're happy with that. And I think we're seeing the evolution of payments as well, right? And we realize that the partnerships with guys like Payroc and others is actually more beneficial to us in a lot of cases than just having these guys or people like you come direct to PAX. And having said that, Chris, maybe you can talk a little bit about when we or other people, whether we PAX refer, potential opportunities to Payroc or people are coming to you direct. What's the vetting criteria that you use from a technical perspective to see if they're suited for, maybe a BroadPOS integration or your SDK integration?
Yeah, it's a good call out. And I like to say the integration team's really the truth seeker in terms of bridging the partner and commercial side of any relationship with the technical piece of it. So when we're solutioning, we're finding best fits. It's not just solutioning around what are you doing today, but really where do you want to go to in the future, that is. And as Phil had mentioned earlier, that omni-commerce experience, right, that was really driving them to find a partnership that made sense for them with minimal lift for the next phases of their business. So from our side, we first and foremost, we look at, payments familiarity. How familiar are you with payments? How embedded do you want to be with payments? And then we take a step back and we look at, okay, well, what are the resources available to you? Do you want to get into having a fully customized user experience with payments? Or do you just want to take a step back and really focus on your core business and your core technology and allow someone like Payroc or even BroadPOS from the PAX application there to drive that interaction, right? And to take ownership of what that flow looks like. So from a solutioning side, it's taking all different aspects, verticals and industries you're supporting, form factors that you want to be able to support from your own tech stack, and then getting into that omni or multi-commerce flow and alternative payments as well, right? I mean, that's a huge conversation piece bubbling up with Payroc, and how can we bridge those together? So as we do that, right, nothing is off the table. It's always, tell us what you want. Maybe we start here and we move, to this approach in the future, right? It's baby steps. It's get in market, it's show profitability, show growth trajectory, and then make those transitions as they make sense.
Yep. And with Chris, so real quick with Chris's team, we worked with Jackie and Simon when we were solutioning back then. And you get all this documentation given to you, and it's like, okay, what do we do with all this, right? We're gonna read it, but you get lost. Help me, right? And Jackie and Simon were the ones that helped us. So they said, all right, here's what we need to do once we got through that session. And we were off to the races starting to code, and then that takes time, but they had most of it ready for us. And there's a lot of time, energy, and patience you have to put in, but it's a lot easier to use the services from a company like Payroc combined with PAX, so you don't have to go reinvent the wheel. You guys are the experts in the payments environment that we work with. We're not. We're car wash operators, right? We design car wash systems and kiosks and terminals and online presences and stuff like that. And we leave the payment side to our integration with you guys and your teams. So that's what we saw.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, Phil. I think that's a trend that we see, that more and more, Chris, you mentioned when you're vetting things out with people, you ask them how deep they want to get into payments. More and more, it's rare that people, whether they're ISVs or large OEMs even, where they look at us and say, we really want to get knee deep into payments. I mean, that's something almost across the board we're seeing they want to, farm out to somebody like a Payroc. Chris, let me kind of throw it back to you. You got these two different integration paths. And not that I necessarily want you to go, into the weeds on them, but maybe give us the 50,000 level or the 50,000 foot view on the difference between, what we're referring to as the broad pause integration path and the full SDK integration path from you, and what a typical development cycle might look like.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest difference, right, is in terms of how you interact with the device, from an integration standpoint with broad pause and versus, say, Payroc's device SDK that we have. I look at broad pause is a component of the payment application that's residing, that you're integrating and communicating with, right? It's driving those flows. Now it's been in the field for years, right? And so the customization and the feature sets is very deep with broad pause. And so as we look at that, like there's a simplicity of being able to go that route and having to not focus on the logic that you need to for prompting for the card entry and how to handle the interaction with those devices, and also just in general smart cards or third party type loyalty cards or MyFair cards, things like that, right? And so as we get into at the highest level, it's for Phil and team, looking at the SDK, it was more along the lines of what pathways can we communicate with these devices, how many or what options do we have from a payments flow that connect us to the gateway, or at least the front end, to be able to do a singular integration for e-commerce and card not present and card present. But when we look at the challenges, right, it's just more along the lines of form factor. You as a developer or as an ISV, what does your tech stack look like? What makes the most sense for you to be able to integrate and communicate and manage these devices, whether it's locally on a local on-prem connection or remote, right? And those considerations all come into play with our ISVs, and sometimes I'll be honest, we don't know all of the answers, and that's where we are able to really leverage our relationship with PAX to be able to go out and say, hey, we have a partner that wants to do this and they're already working with broad pause. Is there a way that we can expand to be able to communicate with a device this way, or what's the faster way where they can build in some custom native flows with utilizing broad pause and maybe switching between different apps. And so those questions come up, right? And as we kind of uncover that, that's where we're able to piece together, well, it makes more sense for our SDK because you have direct access to the specific libraries and commands that you want to build out. You are developing natively to a device if you want to go that route and embed that in and only manage one app versus maybe two different apps. So that all comes into play as we think through this. And honestly, I would say we wouldn't be able to do this without having that close relationship with PAX and, the dev support that we get from your team as well, just with our SDK and your devices that come out, but also with BroadPOS and the other various solutions that you have out there in the field.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. We kind of feel the same. I think it goes back to this, payments are evolving so fast that we've had BroadPOS out there as a legacy payment app, if you will, for years now. But when you start looking at what people like you, Payroc, are doing and the added features you can provide to somebody like a Dencar, we really like being in that position to be able to work with you and offer more than maybe just the standard functionality that you would get with BroadPOS. Bill, just to kind of touch back with you. So as Chris mentioned, you never really were into the whole BroadPOS ecosystem. I mean, you still utilize a lot of the PAX stuff, but again, you used the Payroc SDK approach.
Yep.
I guess I'm looking at you and just want to say all good. I think you already spoke to you had a great experience with it. And as we move forward, you still see the ability to grow and no issues whatsoever.
Yeah, so we use the SDK integration, and it's for us it was a little bit of a language tweak for our developers. So they were using Java in the other application we had. Then they moved to Android and Kotlin for the IM30 device that we have out there with the V2 out, and it wasn't complex. There's always things that come up, but the way it was all written for our dev team, it wasn't that complex to get through.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, Con, I want to pull you back into the conversation a little bit over here. We've mentioned omni-channel, the single entry point, flexibility is key. Talk about how people like Dencar or others can unlock new revenue potential by going with a partnership with somebody like a Payroc. And I'm going to say quite honestly, as opposed to maybe just going direct with a PAX.
Sure. And I think, Tom, before I get into that, I think you actually summed it up earlier. And I think when we look at these two paths to get to Payroc, leveraging PAX, you mentioned earlier that for you guys, it doesn't matter if somebody uses Payroc Gateway directly or BroadPOS, it's still a customer of yours. The same thing goes for Payroc when a partner uses BroadPOS with our processing versus coming directly. So that is one thing. I came off mute a couple of times, but these guys are pretty quick off the mark. So I just want to make sure that we are clear on that, because I think we talk about partnership and we talk about how strong the relationships are here. That is a huge thing on both sides. When we look at, I suppose, how can we help an ISV grow, or how can an ISV grow with our platform? I think one of the biggest things, or one of the biggest reasons people come to us, is to have more control. So there's a lot of players out there that have fantastic technology, but when it comes to trying to customize things a little bit or tweak things, as Phil said earlier with some of the competitors, you don't really get that control. So usually when somebody comes to a payments partner like Payroc, they want to try and do more of something. So that could be more monetization. Maybe today they make zero rev share, or they make very little. How do we get more involved? How do we get higher up the food chain? What do we have to do to try and generate more revenue from that volume coming through? So I certainly think monetization is one of the big elements we see. The other piece is expansion. And again, Phil and team there is a great example where maybe you come in and you start off with just one simple payment method, and then as you grow and as your customer demand grows, you need to add additional payment methods, or maybe you need to add a different country or a different region. So I think, again, just the ability to control your own destiny, the ability to scale, the ability to just leverage a partnership to take your business to the next level. And again, Phil said it really well, without having to become a payments expert. Most people don't want to do that. So you can have a trusted partner that does it all for you. I think